Picture this. You've arrived at that magical time of year when lights sparkle across city streets, festive songs float through the air, and families everywhere anticipate a joyful celebration that seems to blend mystery and wonder. If you've ever paused to consider whether December 25th truly marks the historical day Jesus Christ entered the world, or if this popular date might actually mask a more ancient tradition, then you're in exactly the right place. In the next few minutes, we're going to uncover surprising details, challenge long-held beliefs, and explore hidden layers of history that might just shake up what you thought you knew about Christmas. More importantly, by watching until the end, you'll gain fresh insights, discover how cultural and historical nuances shaped our holiday traditions, and learn why this knowledge can deepen your appreciation for the season. If you enjoy unlocking spiritual mysteries, if you crave understanding the cultural context behind well-known stories, and if you want to enrich your faith with informed perspective, then stay with us. Trust me, you won't want to miss a single moment of this journey. Before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, give this video a like, and share it with friends who might appreciate a thoughtful look behind the curtains of tradition. By subscribing, you ensure that you'll never miss our upcoming explorations into biblical accounts, historical analysis, and meaningful spiritual reflections. Now, let's dive into the heart of the matter. The birth of Jesus stands as one of the most pivotal events in Christian history, and it is described in detail within the Gospels of Matthew and Luke. According to these biblical accounts, the story began when Mary, a young woman living in Nazareth, encountered the angel Gabriel. He delivered a heavenly message that would alter the course of human destiny. She would conceive through the Holy Spirit and give birth to a child who would be called the Son of God. To grasp the weight of this, imagine the shock, awe, and humility Mary must have felt, and how this event would ripple through her family, her community, and eventually the entire world. At the same time, Joseph, Mary's betrothed, faced doubts and fears about the unexpected pregnancy. Yet he, too, received divine assurance through a dream, confirming that everything unfolding before them was all part of a greater, divinely orchestrated plan. Now, picture the historical setting in more tangible terms. A decree by the Roman Emperor Caesar Augustus required the population to return to their ancestral towns for a census. Despite the clear challenges of traveling during pregnancy, Joseph and Mary set off on a long, arduous journey to Bethlehem. Consider how physically demanding such a trek would have been, navigating rugged terrain, likely traveling on foot, and possibly with a donkey, facing fluctuating weather conditions and limited resources. This was no simple holiday excursion. It was a journey undertaken out of necessity and obedience to the laws of their time. When they finally arrived, the town was packed to the brim. The local inns were bursting at full capacity, filled with travelers from all over who had also come to register. With no suitable rooms available, the only shelter they could find was a humble stable. There, amidst the straw and the gentle lowing of nearby animals, the savior of humankind was born and placed in a manger. This image, a newborn lying in a feeding trough rather than in a fine cradle, represents not only simplicity and humility, but also the idea that divine love can manifest in the most unexpected places. Even in our modern world, as we reflect on this setting, it offers a lesson. No matter how modest our surroundings, profound spiritual truths can still emerge within them. Meanwhile, not far away, a group of shepherds tended their flocks under the starry night sky. Imagine their daily reality, protecting their sheep from predators, guiding them to fresh pastures, and surviving long nights beneath open skies. Suddenly, the ordinary rhythm of their evening was shattered by a startling vision. An angel of the Lord appeared, announcing with great joy that the long-awaited Messiah had arrived. Guided by the angel's message, these shepherds hurried off with urgent curiosity, and just as foretold, they discovered Mary, Joseph, and the newborn Jesus exactly as the angels had described. Their experience not only redefined the course of their own lives, but also ignited a testimonial flame that would resonate for generations to come. On a practical level, consider what it might have felt like to be an average laborer, suddenly thrust into the greatest story ever told. This is a powerful reminder that life-changing revelations can break into the everyday every day, transforming ordinary people into living witnesses of divine purpose. And yet, the story does not end there. At a later time, wise men, commonly known as the Magi, traveled from the east, guided by a mysterious, luminous star. When they finally arrived at the place where Jesus was, they brought gifts of great significance: gold, frankincense, and myrrh. Each of these precious offerings carried profound symbolic weight, reflecting royalty, divinity, and the sacrificial path that would define the Messiah's earthly life. However, contrary to many traditional nativity depictions, these learned travelers did not appear on the exact night of Jesus' birth, nor find him still lying in a manger. Their visit likely occurred sometime after the initial event, a detail that is often overlooked in popular Christmas imagery. To better appreciate this, think of how knowledge and understanding unfold over time. Just as the Magi followed a star that didn't lead them instantly to the Christ child, spiritual insights and historical truths often require patience and perseverance. This realization, understanding that the nativity scene didn't fully occur in a single magical evening, naturally leads us to ask, did Jesus Christ truly come into the world on December 25th? For many, this date has become so ingrained that questioning it may seem unsettling. Yet let's examine the clues. One significant hint lies in the detail that shepherds were out in the fields with their flocks at night. In the colder, rainy season corresponding to December in ancient Judea, it would have been unusual for shepherds to remain outdoors with their animals. Additionally, think practically. In frigid conditions and during heavier rainfall, shepherds would have sought more sheltered conditions. This casts serious doubt on the timing of December 25th for the actual birth. Moreover, consider the practicality of long journeys during the heart of winter. If Mary and Joseph had set out for Bethlehem in the colder, rainier months, it would have presented not just inconvenience, but genuine hardship. Heavy rains, muddy paths, and chilling winds would have made travel both treacherous and inefficient. Think about how difficult it can be to embark on a simple modern-day winter road trip with well-paved highways, heated vehicles, and accessible lodging options. Now, imagine traveling on foot or with a donkey in those ancient times when proper shelters, warm clothing, and stable bridges were far less common. Given that the Roman Empire relied on the efficiency of censuses to maintain its administrative control, ensuring a smooth process for taxation and population management, it's unlikely that Roman authorities would have scheduled a census during the harshest and most impractical time of year. These governing powers sought order and productivity, not chaos and attrition among their subjects. Thus, from a historical and cultural perspective, the traditional notion of a December birth date for Jesus seems improbable. When we consider the climate, economic conditions, and patterns of human activity in the Middle East, a scenario emerges that points us toward milder seasons. A strong case can be made for Jesus' birth occurring during warmer months, such as April, June, or October. This assertion isn't random. It aligns meaningfully with important Jewish festivals like Passover, April, Pentecost, June, and the Feast of Tabernacles, October. Imagine, for instance, the bustling streets filled with people who had come from near and far to celebrate one of these significant feasts. During these sacred gatherings, agricultural cycles provided abundant harvests, and families had the resources to travel more comfortably. Storage of grain, wine, and oil was common, meaning travelers and local inns would have been better stocked. This scenario would create a perfect backdrop for a census, highly plausible timing for the government to collect taxes and fulfill administrative duties efficiently. With communities already congregated and the marketplace humming with trade and social interaction, Luke's narrative of a journey to Bethlehem becomes even more convincing. To paint an even clearer picture, think about how local economies might have flourished during these festive times. Markets would be brimming with fresh produce, wool, and other goods. Bread and dried fruits could be transported more reliably, ensuring that travelers like Mary and Joseph could secure basic nourishment along the road. Roads, while still rustic by our standards, would have been less hazardous than in the rainy season, and the natural landscape would offer more comfortable resting spots. Shepherds guiding their flocks would more likely be outdoors in pleasant weather, keeping animals on open pastures rather than cramped in winter shelters. These everyday details, often overlooked, lend realism to the historical historical setting and underscore why a spring or autumn birth date feels more authentic. Understanding these historical and cultural nuances does more than simply challenge a beloved tradition. It enriches our appreciation of the biblical account. Realizing that Jesus' birth likely aligns more with a spring or autumn season than with the chill of December's winter brings both the gospel narratives and the ancient world into sharper focus. Picture the gentle breezes of a Middle Eastern evening, the scent of ripening crops in the air, and the soft glow of lamplight reflecting off mud brick walls in bustling towns. Such imagery allows us to connect more deeply with a story we've heard countless times, experiencing it as if we, too, were travelers in that distant era. In this light, the Nativity becomes not just a religious account, but a richly layered historical event set against a realistic cultural backdrop. Now, let's explore an intriguing chronological clue embedded in the Gospel accounts: the timing of priestly divisions and how they may help us pinpoint the season of Jesus' birth. During the reign of King Herod over Judea, we encounter Zechariah, a priest from the division of Abijah. According to 1 Chronicles 24:10, King David had organized the priesthood into 24 distinct groups, each serving in the temple for a set period, generally about 15 days per group. This detail, although seemingly technical, provides a valuable framework for establishing a rough timeline. The 8th division, that of Abijah, served in the second half of the Jewish month of Tammuz, which begins somewhere between March and April on our modern calendar. Imagine the temple in Jerusalem, bustling with priests performing sacred rituals, pilgrims seeking divine favor, and the scent of incense rising heavenward. It was during one of these ceremonial duties that Zechariah had a life-changing experience. While burning incense, he encountered an angel who announced that his wife Elizabeth would bear a child, John the Baptist. This moment is a clear milestone that allows us to anchor subsequent events. Shortly after the angel's revelation, Elizabeth conceived. Counting forward, we place John the Baptist's conception around July. Roughly 9 months later, we arrive at the month of Nisan, the first month of the Hebrew calendar, which corresponds to March or April in our modern reckoning. Think of how each of these months would shape life in ancient Israel. In March or April, the landscape would be awakening from any lingering chill. Communities would be preparing for Passover, and the momentum of social and religious life would be on the upswing. Families might be planning journeys to Jerusalem, merchants arranging their stalls, and farmers preparing for new plantings. All of these rhythms paint a lively backdrop. In Luke's Gospel, specifically 1:24, following the initial verses, we read that Elizabeth kept her pregnancy secret for 5 months. Then, in the 6th month of her pregnancy, calculating from the time she conceived, something extraordinary happened. The angel Gabriel visited Mary to announce that she, too, would conceive a child through divine intervention. This event is crucial. If John's conception was around July, then 6 months later would place us in January or February, the time frame during which Mary likely conceived Jesus. If we continue with this line of reasoning, counting forward 9 months from Mary's conception brings us to approximately September or October for the birth of Jesus, specifically aligning with the Hebrew month of Tishrei. Think about what Tishrei represents. It's a period rich in Jewish holy days, including the Feast of Trumpets, Rosh Hashanah, the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, and the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot. During these times, Jerusalem and the surrounding towns would have been alive with religious observances, pilgrimages, and a heightened sense of community and expectation. The idea that Jesus might have entered the world at a time of heightened spiritual and communal significance resonates with the notion of a Messiah who came to fulfill deep-rooted hopes and prophecies. This dating method, based on priestly divisions and pregnancies, provides us with a more historically and scripturally coherent time frame for Jesus' birth. Rather than a snowy December night, we might instead picture mild autumn weather, families building temporary sukkahs, tabernacles, to commemorate the journey of the Israelites in the desert, and the faithful reflecting on themes of repentance, renewal, and divine protection. The environment would be vibrant, charged with meaning, quite fitting for the arrival of the long-awaited Messiah. But our exploration doesn't stop there. You might be wondering about the chronological oddity that places Jesus' birth before the very marker that divides history into before Christ, BC, and Anno Domini, AD. Interestingly, modern scholarship and historical investigation suggest that Jesus was actually born several years before year 1 in our current calendar system. Some scholars estimate his birth occurred somewhere between 6 and 4 BC. At first glance, this might sound paradoxical. How can Christ be born before Christ? Yet this is not a denial of his identity or mission. It is simply a historical adjustment, reflecting our recognition that the calculations made centuries after his birth were not perfectly accurate. Yes, this may all seem intriguing and perhaps a bit confusing, but don't worry, we will clarify this surprising detail. When we analyze the tapestry of history, we find that the calendar system currently in use was based on calculations made centuries after Jesus' birth. Those early calculations were not perfectly precise. By the time scholars recognized the discrepancy, realizing that Jesus was likely born between 6 and 4 BC, it was far too late to adjust the calendar without causing monumental upheaval. To understand this, think about how ingrained our current dating system is in daily life. Shifting it would mean altering government documents, academic research, international treaties, and even how we record events across centuries. It would be like trying to reset the world's clocks after we've all adapted to a certain standard for generations. This paradox where Jesus was born several years before Christ is less about him and more about human attempts to measure time in relation to his birth. It doesn't diminish his identity or message in the slightest. Instead, it simply underscores the complexity of historical record-keeping and the limits of human accuracy in reconstructing past events. If anything, it encourages humility and a more informed approach to history. When we reflect on these nuances, it can strengthen our appreciation for the faith journey, showing us that while human systems have their flaws, the divine truth they point to remains steadfast. Despite the significant evidence suggesting that Jesus may have been born in September or October around 6 BC, the specific month or day he entered the world is not the crux of the Christian faith. What truly matters is that Jesus finds a place in our hearts each and every day. After all, the message he brought, one of love, compassion, forgiveness, and redemption, is not confined to a particular date on the calendar. Whether we choose to commemorate his birth on December 25th, in March, or on the last day of August, the deeper truth is that the spirit of Christmas can be rekindled whenever we open ourselves to his teachings. Each new dawn offers a fresh opportunity to experience divine renewal, inviting us to live under God's grace and love. Consider how this perspective might influence your own life. Instead of stressing over historical dates, you might focus on the core values Jesus represented. For example, imagine sharing acts of kindness and generosity throughout the year, not just during the holiday season. Picture extending understanding and forgiveness to a friend who has hurt you, or volunteering at a local charity outside of any festive occasion. Each time you show compassion, you are, in a sense, allowing the Messiah to be reborn in your heart, making Christmas less about a single calendar day and more about a continuous attitude of loving service. The story of Jesus' birth, then, transcends the simple recounting of a historical event. It highlights the incarnation, the profound act in which God chose to become human, stepping into our reality and forging an intimate relationship with humanity. This choice was not merely symbolic. It was a transformative event that changed the course of history and paved the way for a plan of salvation that would echo through eternity. Bethlehem, in this light, is not merely a geographic location. Instead, it represents the first tangible manifestation of divine love and grace, a humble setting from which hope would radiate across the centuries. For Christians, Jesus is Emmanuel, meaning God with us. His birth was more than just the start of an extraordinary life. It was the beginning of a journey culminating in his redemptive sacrifice on the cross. When we celebrate Christmas, we are not only marking his entry into the world, but also commemorating the unfolding of a salvation narrative that unites humanity around a message of hope and spiritual renewal. By looking at the Nativity through this broader lens, we acknowledge that the festivities and traditions are simply doorways leading us toward a deeper understanding of Christ's mission. The choice of December 25th as the date to celebrate Jesus' birth, in fact, lacks direct biblical basis. Instead, it emerged from historical and cultural decisions made by the early church, specifically the Catholic Church, several centuries after the events in Bethlehem. By the time December 25th was adopted, it coincided neatly with existing festivities that held deep significance for the people of that era. For instance, in ancient Rome, December 25th, overlapped with the culmination of Saturnalia, a popular festival honoring the god Saturn. This festive season was a time of feasting, gift-giving, and general revelry, concepts that may feel familiar to us during the modern Christmas period. Also significant was Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, meaning the birth of the unconquered sun. This holiday marked the winter solstice in the Northern Hemisphere, the day when the sun began its return journey, gradually offering more daylight and symbolizing the victory of light over darkness. Imagine how important this natural cycle was for agrarian communities. The return of longer days meant renewed hope, better harvest prospects, and relief from the cold, dark winter. Aligning the celebration of Christ's birth with an existing festival that already resonated with themes of rebirth and hope created a clever bridge for early Christian missionaries and church leaders. It allowed them to gently reframe a pre-existing cultural moment of joy and renewal into one that honored the light of the world born as a child in Bethlehem. This strategy of cultural syncretism, where elements of one tradition are merged with another, proved instrumental in the spread of Christianity. Pagan converts who were accustomed to celebrating during the winter solstice found it natural to transfer their traditions to a Christian context. Over time, as these layers of meaning intertwined, December 25th became widely accepted and cherished as the day of Christ's birth. Think of it as a historical adaptation designed to ease the transition into a new faith tradition. While we might scrutinize the authenticity of the date, from a missionary standpoint, it was a brilliant approach. It reoriented existing emotional and cultural energy, drawing communities closer to the Christian message without demanding a radical rupture from their familiar customs. Today, Christmas is celebrated around the world as a time of love, generosity, and togetherness, a season that transcends its ancient origins. But understanding its historical underpinnings can help us appreciate just how dynamic and flexible traditions can be. Consider how you might apply this insight in your own life. Rather than dismissing traditions that do not fit perfectly with historical facts, you can view them as evolving practices that have absorbed layers of meaning over time. For example, perhaps you have personal or family traditions that aren't historically accurate to any biblical narrative. Rather than abandoning them, you can choose to imbue them with new spiritual significance. The core message remains: love, hope, and redemption, values that easily transcend any particular date. Christmas, as we know it, is the celebration of divine love incarnated in a humble stable, bringing a transformative message to all humanity. It urges us to look beyond materialism and ritual, encouraging us instead to embrace values such as empathy, compassion, and renewed hope. While gift-giving and festive meals are wonderful ways to share joy, it's the spirit in which these acts are done that truly matters. After all, the first Christmas was marked by simplicity: a child in a manger, a young mother's faith, a father's quiet courage, and the awe of ordinary shepherds. By reconnecting with these fundamental elements, we can ensure that our modern observances reflect the timeless truths at the heart of the story. As we immerse ourselves in these rich layers of history and meaning, let's remember that Christmas, at its core, is a celebration of divine love entering our world as a vulnerable infant in Bethlehem. This single event brought a transformative message intended for all humanity. May this special season inspire each of us to go beyond outward gestures, like buying expensive gifts or organizing lavish parties, and instead embrace the true values embedded in the story of Christ's birth. Values such as genuine love, empathy for others, and a renewed sense of hope can guide us not only through the holiday season, but throughout the entire calendar year. Think about ways to integrate these values into your everyday life. Reach out to a neighbor who might be feeling isolated, volunteer your time at a local shelter, write a heartfelt letter to a family member you rarely speak to, or choose gifts that hold personal significance rather than mere material worth. By doing so, the spirit of Christmas will not remain confined to a short festive period. It will radiate light and purpose in our lives all year long. Each day offers new opportunities to reflect on how Christ's message can shape our actions, turning simple routines into moments of grace and connection. May the true meaning of Christmas deeply touch our hearts and fill our homes with joy, peace, and a sense of divine purpose. Imagine sitting around a dinner table with loved ones, reflecting not only on the day's festivities, but on the enduring message behind them, the hope of redemption, the power of forgiveness, and the promise of everlasting love. Let the image of the manger, an improvised cradle in a humble stable, remind us that the greatest gift ever given was not wrapped in fine paper or adorned with ribbons. Instead, it lay quietly, illuminated by starlight, waiting to grow into a life that would heal, teach, and ultimately sacrifice itself for all. May this perspective motivate us to share the light we've received with the world. This can mean spreading kindness in small but meaningful ways, offering a listening ear to someone in distress, sharing a meal with a stranger, or simply passing along encouraging words to someone who needs them, just as the shepherds and the magi carried forward the story they witnessed. We, too, can carry forward the message of hope and love that Christmas embodies. As we close, I wish you all a blessed Christmas, filled not only with the warmth of tradition, but also the depth of understanding. May your heart open wide enough to receive love and to offer it freely to others. May this season guide you toward a future brimming with personal fulfillment, spiritual growth, and unwavering faith. And just as the Star of Bethlehem shone brightly for those seeking the newborn King, may its symbolic light guide you toward paths of compassion, wisdom, and generosity in your own life. Take this moment to reflect on how you can be that guiding star for someone else, perhaps through mentoring, offering support during difficult times, or inspiring others by the way you live your faith. If you enjoyed this expanded and thoughtful exploration, don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more biblical stories, historical insights, and faith-building content. By subscribing, you help us continue creating videos that inform, inspire, and encourage others to dig deeper into their spiritual heritage. Also, consider sharing this video with friends, family members, or anyone you believe would appreciate a more nuanced understanding of the holiday traditions they hold dear. Who knows? You might spark a meaningful conversation that leads them to discover a richer appreciation for the truths we celebrate this season. Thank you for spending this time with us, and we look forward to having you join us again for future explorations. Until the next video, may God bless you abundantly, today, tomorrow, and always.